people tell me that I'm crazy, I tell them that's exactly.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I'm so excited to be talking with you. I finished your book actually yesterday. It was so good.
Well, thank you, Kenzie. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for reaching out to have me on your show.
Of course. Also, my family is from St. Louis. I was actually born there. So it's so funny.
Well, St. Louis is a great place to be born and to live. And, the people here are they're really incredible. They're amazing people. Midwestern people are just fun people.
So nice. I love it there. Okay, so something that you say often that I really, really love is my pain led me to my greatness. My greatness would eventually lead me to my destructive behavior, which I think is so powerful. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I think it's because of the pain who we are. We grew up and, I grew up in a dysfunctional home. My father was alcoholic and kind of rejected me and beat the crap out of me and left me for dead. And there was real pain there. So my pain eventually led me to be great. I told myself that I wanted to be great playing Major League Baseball. And, I would show my father, that I would turn out to be something. And eventually I would turn out to be that. But also I always say your greatness will lead you into your destructive behavior, because if you're not well on the inside, it doesn't matter. No matter how much success you have, how many things you accumulate from an earthly standpoint, it's just stuff, and at the end of the day, it really is meaningless. And I think all of us don't realize that at the time. We think it's going to satisfy our soul, but really it doesn't satisfy your soul. It just means that you have more stuff than other people and you live a different life than other people. But I think we all search inside for happiness on the inside of ourselves, and we try to find it in so many different things to satisfy our soul, and I did for so many years, playing Major League Baseball for 17 years and accomplishing so many great things. But also at the end of the day, when it all came down to it, I was empty on the inside and I needed more to fill me on the inside. And I was missing out on the real peace that I needed. And that was the God peace. Like I said, I don't really thump anybody over the head. I'm a strong believer in who I am, and I'm a minister of the gospel. But I know for me, experiencing that life that I did, fame and fortune, it darn near killed me.
When you were, reaching for things and trying to fill a void, do you think you were aware that you felt empty and that you were trying to fill a void? Or do you think that you just thought that was the life that you were supposed to live?
Well, I always knew it was emptiness there. You always knew from the outside what I looked like, was very shallow. Everybody look at you from the outside and think you have it all together. But I knew on the inside that I didn't. I knew that there was real rooted issues there. I had a broken relationship with my father, and I had a loving mother who went home early to be with the Lord. She passed away at the age of 55, and then I buried my sister at the age of 51. And here it is, me, having cancer too. And, why did I get to live? I always question that with God. Why did you keep me over them? They were so much more better than I was living here. But in the end of it, I realized that he had a far greater plan that would create such a stir up in people's lives, when they see me, that I would become a different person. And, I always knew that the inside was broken. I just needed to get it healed on the inside.
Do you think you were looking to those things for healing, like the drugs, the girls, the alcohol? Was that something that you were trying to heal you almost? Or were you just trying at that point, I'm just giving in?
No, I think it was just all a part of the journey. We all have a journey that we're going to come here in life, and we're going to face so many trials and tribulations and temptations. And it's like, don't sit around and be a victim. I think too many people sit around and be a victim. I could have sat around and been a victim of that, but I'm not. I'm an overcomer, by the blood of the Lamb. I'm overcome because of what Christ did on the cross for me. So when I realized that, that all those things that I were trying to make me happy, none of them was never making me happy. It was just a separated life. And it wasn't until I connected to Christ and, I came there, and I started living the purpose, the reason why we created. And, we all come here and we think we're created for success. Yeah, we're created for great success. No question about it, Kenzie. I believe all of us are created for that. But at the same time, there's a great purpose that God created all of us do something great for him and stand for him and have a purpose and a platform to be able to let people see that he's the reason why we live. Because without him, we don't live. If he decided to call my name and say it's over, it's over. If he wanted to, I mean, he could have said that long time ago with me, with cancer and drug addiction and all the things I was going through. He could have said it was over, that's it. That's your last call, but he didn't. And he spared me. And I'm grateful that he spared me and allowed me to have a platform, to have a voice today to reach the multitude of people.
That's actually something I wanted to touch on, was that you do not have victim mentality at all. There's so many things that you've gone through in your life that could have easily really just taken you out for good. Was this a conscious decision that you made? And do you feel like you had victim mentality at early ages? Was it something that kind of changed when you met God? Like, what in you made you aware of like not having a victim mentality?
I think I had it growing up. I think it was from my mother. My mother raised 5 of us by herself. She was a beautiful woman, and
Wow.
I just give her so much credit for raising 5 of us. And the thing about it is, as I sit here, I know she raised me right. So it was no excuse for me to venture off and get lost, because she did raise me right. She was a wonderful woman who raised 5 kids by herself, and she raised us right. And she raised us how to respect people and live right and talk right and be right to people. But I made a choice, I made a conscious decision to live a sinful heathen life. That's just the way it is. That's the way it was for me. It was my choice. You have a free will to make that choice, or you have a will to, really live according to the principles. And I just didn't live according to the principles. I lived according to the flesh. And for me, living according to the flesh, it was very costly to me, in my life. And it played out publicly in front of the public eyes, and the platform is incredible that you have in the public eyes. And if you can live it according to a different way, people are going to always have something to say, whichever way you live it. I lived in a heathen way back then. Now I'm living in a godly way. Now they have something to say because I don't live a life separated from God. And that's all I really talk about it these days. And so I realized that they're going to talk about you no matter who you are, what you are, and what kind of life you live. You have to come to that conclusion in your life. What is the number one and most important thing for you to live your life, and how you're going to live your life?
Yeah, that's really good. You were obviously like the picture of success. You had 7 appearances on the cover of Sports Illustrated, 4 World Series titles, 7 years in the MLB, 8-time All-Star. I mean, like a baseball legend, to say the least. I was actually reading something too, and this was online somewhere, and it said it leading to many narratives about his massive potential going unfulfilled, which I thought is so crazy, because it's wild to see what God has done in your life, especially because I would not say that at all. I think maybe in a world sense of like how they view it, maybe in baseball, but I think the complete opposite is actually what happened. But because you were able to actually surrender, which I want to talk a lot about, like the healing process and how you actually like grew your relationship with God and your faith, because I think a lot of people are confused, but it is just crazy how that was something that was said. And I'm like, I actually don't think so.
You're right about that. I mean, I never thought that way. Of course, that's what they think about. They think about the potential of you being an athlete and you performing and doing more and more and reaching more. And so many of them reach so much more that you can't never find God. They really believe that they don't need God, and at the end of the day, your last breath will be, when you go meet God, and he's going to ask you, what did you do? You're going to say, well, I achieved all these earthly things. He's not going to be talking about these earthly things. He's not concerned about that. I think so many people don't understand it. And so many people that write about these type of things don't understand the purpose of life. They just think it's supposed to be fulfilling these promises here, what man believes you're supposed to fulfill. And when you fulfill them, then what's next? They talk about you when you even fulfill them. So what difference does it make? So that they're totally wrong about it, because there's a greater purpose for every last one of us, because we were created for a greater purpose and a greater promises over our life, when we understand the principles. But you'll never understand that unless you understand the principles, because you'll be still chasing after all the earthly success. What people don't understand, what the Bible says, like, Kenzie, heaven and earth is going to pass away, but not my word. That means me, you, and everything else is going to pass away. But God's word will always be here for somebody else to pick it up. and find their way. And I think that's where the media and people write about. They're just so wrong. They just don't have a clue. They don't have an idea, because they think, well, you take on a new level of life, after baseball and all the things I accomplished. They see me now, and they rather not talk about who I am today. They rather see me not be who I am today, and they rather that I fall, and they're waiting for the fall, because I know they've been waiting. They say, well, let's see how long this will last. When I said I was going to walk this way, and it's been 18 years and I never looked back, and they're still waiting, and they're wondering, well, is he really different? Why is he so different now? And it's because I had a complete transformation, and man can't give it to you. Only God can give it to you himself.
I want to talk a lot about the process of you then to you now, because I think sometimes people will look at it and they either want to grow their faith, or they want, the emotional healing or the freedom that you're currently walking in. And all they see are like the headlines, right? So they only see either like the big baseball, like legend, or now like evangelist, and they don't really see the in between. So I want to talk a little bit about the restoration process. You said in your book, the restoration process is just the beginning. So where do you go from there? Like when did you actually finally decide, like, okay, I'm going to, kind of try to start like following God?
Well, I always knew by watching my mother, because my mother was a prime example, raising 5 kids by herself and living a Christian life. After divorcing my father, she never remarried, and she never fell into a long-term relationship with anybody again. And we watched her and saw that, and we just saw her being in church, and we saw her living a different way, and we saw her loving all kind of people and helping all kind of people, and we knew it was good because she was doing it from her heart. And I realized then that that one day, maybe I'll be able to walk like that. I just knew I couldn't be that person in my career, because I was completely lost. I was completely separated from any foundation, any principles. So I think it was a process. It's not an overnight miracle. I think everybody wondered, well, how did this all happen? How did you get like this? It wasn't an overnight miracle. It was from the trials and tribulations, from addiction, from cancer twice, and losing my left kidney, and being locked up in a Florida State prison with a T17169 because of addiction, and realizing, Kenzie, that God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself through that whole process. And when I realized that, I came to a point. And how did I come to a point? Well, God sent this beautiful woman in my life, and that's my wife, Tracy. He sent her in my life when I was struggling with addiction. I was shooting dope, smoking crack down in South Florida. She was banging on dope house doors, pulling me out of places and saying, God's got a plan for you. God's got a plan for your life. I says, why don't you just leave me here and you and that God, and let me die? And she was like, you're just not that lucky, and and she's my wife today. And we've been, she's got 21 years in recovery. I got 18. She saved me. God used her to bring me back into church, and she led me back into church. And then our life started, at the bottom. See, what most people don't understand, we started at the bottom. I was $3 million in debt and didn't have a driver's license. So she started at the bottom with me, while everybody else was gone. The money was gone, the fame was gone. She was there when there was nothing there. And she believed in me. She believed that God had a plan for us. And God used her to lead me back into church. And when I got back into church, God sat me for 7 years and made me get discipled. And I used to always watch her, and I was jealous of her relationship that she had with God. And I was just like, she just loves God, and she doesn't live a life like for worldly life anymore. And she introduced me to all different kind of things. She introduced me to Walmart, something I never knew anything about, like how to shop in. So it was just some incredible things that happened that brought such great joy to my life, through her. And God used her to guide me and steer me on this road to freedom, I would say, to freedom and peace and joy and purpose. It's a great purpose, of life that a lot of us don't even know about. And she was able to lead me into the purpose that God created me for. So I'm forever grateful for, her love that she has for me.
I love that so much. I think when people talk about freedom or talk about healing, especially in a faith context, because obviously, like, we both know our own journeys, our own stories, like what God has walked us through, how he's healed us, things like that. It's not as easy to be as maybe practical about it and give like practical tips. But do you have things that you were doing when you were trying to kind of get back on track? Like, were you like reading the word? Were you praying? Like, what were some like practical, tangible steps that you would give to someone who's maybe in a similar position?
I think the most important thing is to separate yourself from worldly things. If you really want to go on a road of a transformation, you're gonna have to separate yourself from worldly people. You just can't run with people that you used to run with when you were this other person. I think that was a big step for me, is to be able to get a transformation, you're gonna have to change. And I think that a lot of times people don't want to make that change. They were like, well, these are my friends. No, well, if they're really your friends, they will be clapping for you
Mhm.
when you're making a real change, because you're no longer hanging out in places that you have no business of hanging out. And so I think those are real steps that I started to take. Was I started separating myself from people, and I lost a lot of people that I thought were really friends. You'll really find out who's who when you decide that you're going to walk this walk with God, and you're going to be a different person, and you're no longer going to live like that. You're no longer going to entertain worldly things, but you're going to entertain, like, studying, staying home and reading the Bible for yourself and staying away. And it gets lonely. Yeah, it was a very lonely time when I was going through that process. But at the end, it is the most satisfying process that I ever been through in my life, because I became a different person. And at the end of the day, that's what it all boils down to. No man could change you. Only God can change you. A man can predict, what he wants about your future or who you are. He can predict that, but that doesn't change you. He cannot change you. So the changing process comes through you making the changes and becoming a different person and seeing yourself different. And I had to see myself different. I couldn't see myself. My wife was so cute. She was so cute. I couldn't see myself. She was like, when are you gonna ever take that baseball uniform off and not be Darryl Strawberry, the baseball player, anymore?
As far as reconciliation goes, because I know you have a really powerful story with both your father and your kids. Well, actually, can we go in really quickly into the story about you and your dad? I think this is one of the most powerful things for so many reasons, but oftentimes, especially when as a child you have a broken relationship with your parent, it's really easy to blame them because they are the adult. But I think not only, yeah, God led you to do that, but also like your obedience in doing that and how you handled that is like honestly probably one of the most powerful stories I think I've heard.
Yeah, my relationship was broken with my father, since the last time he came home when I was 14. He was drunk again. He was an alcoholic. Came home and was like stirring up the house, and we woke up, and my brother Mike told him, "Why don't you just get out here and leave us alone?" And he pulled out a shotgun. Said he was going to kill the whole family. Me and my brothers went into action. Ronnie grabbed a butcher knife. I grabbed a frying pan, and it could have been a tragedy in my life from the beginning. Right that night, had it not been for my mother with that look on her face that she gave us to get out of the house, and she just gave us that, like, now, because she knew that we were serious, and she saw from there that he had put her kids in danger there to do something that probably would have cost their life for a very long time. And so our life was just broken for all those years. Relationship, there was never a relationship. I hated him for what he did to my mother and what he did to us, the beatings and the rejection, and he left us for dead. And there it is, I got saved, and the Lord changed my life, and there I was doing ministry, traveling the country, doing ministry all over the place. And here it is, the Lord speaks to me one day on a Friday night. I'm going to do a men's conference on a Saturday in California. I'm in California. Find out my father's in the hospital in San Diego. So he speaks to me to go down to my father, and for me to go down to see him in the hospital. And he tells me, don't say anything about what he did to me. I want you to go repent to him. He asked me to go repent to my father, and I needed to ask my father to forgive me for keeping him out of my life and my career, keeping him from his grandkids and everything. So I go down there that Sunday, and I do exactly. I said, the Lord has changed me. I'm a different person. And I said, would you forgive me for keeping you out of my life and my career and missing your grandkids? And a tear came out of his eye, Kenzie, and I just lost it. I just laid there in his lap and I just cried. I was weeping so hard, and just for a period of time. Then the Lord said, raise up. And then he raised me up and he says, now lead him in a sin of prayer. I said, you know, the Lord has changed me. My life is different. Would you like to accept him? And he was like, yes. He shook his head, said, yes. And I says, well, would you repeat after me the sin of prayer? And he repeated the sin of prayer right after me. And there was, you know, me leading my father, the man that rejected me and left me and my family dead, to the Lord. And what the Lord reminded me in that process, he says, first, how dare you not forgive him and I forgave you? And then he said, the forgiveness was not for your father, the forgiveness was for me. No wonder I stayed broken all those years, because I would never release him. And I think so many people are in bondage and trapped in somewhere with somebody that they won't forgive, they won't release, they won't let go. Because when I released him, immediately the Lord set me free and I was able to go on a journey. And then I became this evangelist. I was traveling the country and started preaching the gospel like 250 times out of a year. Something I wasn't capable of doing, but I had to get set free before God could ever send me like he really wanted to send me. And I think that's for most people why they're stuck and they're still trying to get to the place that they need to get to, but they won't release someone in their life and ask them to forgive them, because the forgiveness is not for them, it's usually for us so we can get free.
Absolutely. I think there's a weird mindset too with unforgiveness, to where if you forgive someone, I think people have this idea of like, oh, it doesn't matter that it happened, or maybe they're getting let off. But exactly what you said, like it's actually hurting you in the process. And they're not really, the only thing you have responsibility for and the only thing that you can even take ownership of is yourself at the end of the day. So if you're sitting there holding on to things, like that makes complete sense. I also think that's like such an incredible and powerful thing to do, because it's such a rare case that, one, you've ended up where you're at, but also have been able to like walk through that. Another thing I wanted to talk about is just like broken relationships with family and reconciling there, like with kids, things like that. Like, how were you able to walk through that and have great relationships? Because I know that you and Tracy are like pretty open about this, and I think I don't know, I just think it's such a cool thing.
Well, I think the most important thing is I had to go back and make amends to a lot of people. You know, the first wife and the second wife and 6 kids. You know, I had to go back and ask them to forgive me. I would tell, you know, to the wives, tell them I wasn't a good husband, I wasn't a good father. Tell the kids I wasn't a good father, you know, good husband. I was very selfish, and you know, I did you guys wrong. So that was the first healing part step, you know, and that was a process. And that was real hard. You know, there was a lot of tears shared, you know, because, you know, I was, you know, they on the mother's side, you know, and on my side, you know, to say I was wrong and to be able to admit that. And I think that's where in the society today, we're afraid to go there and admit our wrongs to each other. But it's such a great healing process that will come through that. And over a period of time, the healing process took place from me and my children and their mothers, and just the whole process was incredible to be able to go through, because now it was no longer, you know, me pointing the finger at and saying they were my problem. You know, I'm admitting to them that I was really the problem and I needed to stand up and take my rightful place. And when I actually did that, you know, it helped them out, but it helped my children out more than anything. And then I think the relationship that I have with my children is so incredible, because we have a blended family. You know, my wife is white, of course, I'm Black, and we have these mixed kids and all this stuff, and we have a blended family. So we all had to come together, and it was really hard at the beginning because my girls were really tough. You know, they were really strong. They were young. You know, not my youngest one, she's still in college right now, but Jade was really strong, and you know, and Diamond and Alice, they were really strong in the fact that they were here first. You know, and I had to let Jade know that Tracy's my wife, and this is the way it is. We're gonna be one family, and we all came together. And man, it just worked out so good. We got such an amazing family. They all love each other. The kids are, you know, all close together, and they stay in contact, and they cheer each other on, you know, in life and everything. And that's what you want at the end of the day, for your kids, no matter what other kids come into the play, you know, that wasn't a part of the family. You know, like my daughter Alice, she's incredible. She's beautiful. The kids love her. You know, it's just one big family. But it was from my wife. My wife was able to create this. Let's bring the family together. We need to bring all of us together. And she kept doing that. And she brought Alice into my life. And she just thought it was important that all the other kids know that Alice was part of the kid, of the family and everything. And, you know, it just worked out so well, you know, and you got to be willing. You got to be willing to get over yourself, I think, more than anything, to say, you know, the family tree is more important than one of himself.
My family is blended. I grew up with 8 siblings, and so pretty similar. It's really hard at first. It takes a long time, but now, I mean, entire social life is my siblings. Like that's who I talk to 24/7. That's who I'm always with. And just from being on the side of being the kid of a blended family, I was definitely the stubborn one. I was the one who didn't really want it. I was so mad my parents got divorced. It was just honestly, it was like a very long process, a lot of therapy, a lot of faith, like all of the above. But it really is the greatest gift whenever you finally are like, you know what, this is like where I'm at, and I'm going to not only accept it, but also like invest in those relationships. And now I say that all the time. We lost one of our siblings, and I remember after that, I was like, you know, it's so crazy how for so long I really, really didn't want any sort of blended family at all. And now, as we're like all here together, I'm like, I can't imagine my life without them. Like, it's a totally different thing. That took 10 years, but now I'm like, I cannot imagine my life without them. And I'm actually so grateful for how like God has worked through and like in the process and brought everyone together. And it does take time, but I think even what you're saying of like taking responsibility is something that a lot of people try to skip over. And instead of saying like, hey, I'm so sorry, I was wrong, they just kind of try to like move past to the reconciliation rather than taking responsibility. So I think that's really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we as people, I think, you know, we get the tendency of being so selfish, and we make it about us.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to think about it, you know, when we learn so much, you know, being with God, is what if God thought that way about us? You know, and
Yeah.
what if what if he rejected us? You know, because we messed up so many times, you know, he could have rejected us, you know, so why are we so eager to reject our loved ones and that he created for us to be, you know, together with, and learn to live life together and do life together. And it's the most incredible thing. So many families out there will be missing out on that because they'll never take that step, you know, to
Mm-hmm.
bring about healing, you know, and it's not our healing, it's God healing that comes in the midst of that. The heal, no one signed up, you know, to be here. You know, God created us to be here. And so we have to learn to be able to become that family, you know, even if it's blended or not, even if you don't look like each other, you come from a different place. And you find out more than anything that your brothers and sisters are pretty incredible. And I think all my kids have found that out about each other. They just adore each other, and that's a grateful sight. You know, Tracy boys, and she's got 3 boys, and I got 6, so we have 9. So we have our own starting 9 baseball team lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought God was pretty creative with that, you know, to give me a starting
Yeah.
9. So and it's just a wonderful family, and we're so thankful for every last one of them.
I love that so much. I want to talk about Tracy because she's clearly a superwoman. How did you guys actually originally meet?
We met at a convention, NA convention, Narcotics Anonymous event convention. She had 1 year in recovery, and I had like 5 seconds in recovery. And she met me at the convention. I told her, you don't want to get involved with me. I go through people like a tornado. And she thought it was sick, you know, that everybody was hovering over me at the convention, want autographs and pictures because of my celebrity status. And she thought, man, this guy is struggling. He's dying, you know, and you guys are wanting pictures and autographs with him. And she was just talking to me and had a conversation with me, and we became friends. You know, she gave me her number, and, you know, I started calling and talking to her. And then we started dating, and I told her she didn't want to, I said, you don't want to get involved with me. I'm dangerous, you know, I'm real dangerous. And she always say, you didn't tell me the details of it, you know, you just told me you were dangerous. And I was really dangerous, you know, because I was still in addiction, and I was still running hard, and I was just running through people like crazy and doing whatever I wanted to do, to use drugs and live a life separated from God. And that's how we met. And like I said, she never went back. She stayed. Once she got clean, she never went back. So she's like 20, coming up on 22 years of recovery, and just a wonderful woman who truly loved God and loved family, and and she taught me what was really important. It's okay, guys. I always tell, hopefully guys will listen to this too. I always tell guys it's okay to allow a woman in your life to help you and lead you and guide you. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you a better man. See, my life became better because God allowed me to see her and let her lead me into what was important in life, and not all the stuff, because I think so many guys get consumed with, I don't have enough stuff, because all you're gonna do is get more, and all you're gonna do is look at it,
Mhm.
and that's all it's gonna be for you. So, real life comes, and very special package, in a very special package. And I think a lot of guys don't know that.
At what point were you guys when you guys met, were you both like following God at this point, or did you guys kind of do that together?
She was, and I was far away because I was in the midst of addiction, and she was on her journey. She had just become a new Christian, and she was following God. And we broke up. Believe me, we didn't stay together. We broke up. We were together, boyfriend, girlfriend, and we were living this life and talking about, well, we're gonna follow God. And she was like, this is not right. She said, I'm not gonna do this. She woke up one morning, we were shacking up, living together, and she was like, I'm not sleeping with you anymore. I goes, what? She goes, I'm not having sex with you anymore. I say, what? She said, no. She said, I'm gonna live right for God. She said, I'm gonna follow Jesus. I don't know what you're gonna do. And I left and went to my sister's house and stayed with her and her three kids in a 2-bedroom apartment. I didn't know if I was going to be with Tracy or not. And I went back and got with God and got right. And she got right. And God sent us back together about 6 months later, and we got married, and we started on the journey together. And we didn't have nothing, but we had each other. We had our faith, and we started walking in our faith together. And God built us from the ground up to a whole entire ministry that he has given us, to help the multitude of people. It's incredible when you do it right. And I think a lot of times people don't want to do it right because it doesn't feel good. Yeah, it doesn't feel good, but it doesn't feel good doing wrong either. And I
Yeah.
realized that. I realized living like that, I didn't want to live that way anymore, and she didn't want to live that way anymore. So we wanted to do it right, and we got on the board and did it together, and here we are today. We sit here with a powerful ministry. She's a pastor. She's incredible. She works at the church, and she helps the multitude of people. She teaches class. She's the discipleship pastor. She does everything. She helped women. She helped men. Come to learn, to disciple them. Through classes and lead them into their destiny. So God has really blessed her with a gift, and I'm so grateful for that.
How did you guys actually like practically navigate growing in your faith together?
Well, we realized one thing, that our commitment was, church is not an option. We go.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. As a couple, we go. And there was at times, when I first started in that, she was always going on Sunday. I wanted to stay home. She was like, bye, I'm going to church. She used to leave me. And I was like, I got so mad. So I started going. And then once I started going, I never stopped. And the time that we spend together, we have our own separate time of spending our time with God. She wakes up every morning at 5:30. To this day, 22 years later, still wake up out of bed at 5:30 to go be with God early in the morning.
Nice.
She's early morning with God. And I was like, God, I'm not waking up at 5:30 in the morning. But that was her journey. That's her journey with God.
Yeah.
So, and I work, I wake up. I mean, when she's sleep at night, I'm usually up studying at night. So we have our home life is study life, where you're supposed to study with God. And I get up every day and I turn on worship music and I worship God every day, because that's how I enter into God's presence.
What worship music do you listen to?
I listen to just a little bit of everything. I mean, from old school, from Mississippi choir, to songs like I'm Still Here, Order My Steps, to, Hillsong and
Yeah.
Todd Delaney, Victory in Jesus. Just so many great songs that I have, on my phone to enter me into worship every day, to start my day off, with coffee and worshiping God.
There you go. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is life now. Like, what What is your daily routine?
Well, my daily routine, if I'm not traveling, is like I said, is really once I get up, is to spend time with God. Nobody's usually home. The wife is usually gone, so I get to spend quality time at home, and sometimes I get down in one of the rooms offside in the house. I go in there and I do a lot of studying. I write. I write my own lessons, my own sermons. I just study. I allow the Holy Spirit to just pour into me and give me information and revelation about what message that I should bring. There's a lot of different messages I tie together. And I have a lot of different teacher books. Of Charles Stanley, Billy Graham. Tony Evans. I go down the list of different people who have established themselves as leaders and been leaders, for a very long time. And, they're very strong. I don't really, consider, going into other leaders who are not strong. I consider those who have made the way, who have been through something, that know what the gospel of Jesus Christ is. Jimmy Swagger, I watch him at night. Me and Tracy, we love their ministry because it's powerful. It's the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I don't want somebody giving me a message just to make me feel good. I need to be empowered by the gospel of Jesus Christ.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can they find you? And everyone go order the book.
Well, they can go to Amazon.com to get the book, and they can find our ministry is findingyourway.com. That's our ministry page. And, my wife, and you can go on there. You can get a lot of information and revelation lessons, from her on that.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
If I'm really being honest, and you ask me how I'm doing, I probably have to tell you that, tell you